This is Berks County Commissioner Christian Leinbach, and I want to welcome you to our Commissioners Board meeting for Thursday, September the 10th. Before we begin, a couple of notes. Number one, we are not being broadcast on BCTV today. They are doing some construction and are unavailable to broadcast. We are broadcasting through Microsoft Teams Live, as well as YouTube Live and Facebook Live. If you would like to make a comment, you are limited to one comment per person. We need your first and last name and the municipality where you reside. If you want to comment specifically on an agenda item, please do so now. Identify the agenda item. That does not preclude you from commenting later on. I do want to note, because there's a question already on the minutes. Minutes are not posted for a meeting until they're approved. So the most recent posted meeting minutes are from our commissioners meeting on August the 27th. And once we approve last Thursday's meeting minutes today, they will be posted. So hopefully that will answer that question. With that, we will begin our program. And as always, we'll begin with a moment of silence, followed by a pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This morning, we are going to begin with a special presentation. This is from Dr. Ed Mahalik. He is our director of the Mental Health and Developmental Disabilities, and this deals with a proclamation recognizing September as Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month. And in fact, today, September the 10th, is Suicide Awareness and Prevention Day. Dr. Ed.
Good morning, commissioners, and good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I think it's very appropriate today on September the 10th that we and on National Suicide Prevention Awareness Day. It's wonderful that the presentation, this proclamation to you, the board, to execute, was presented today. This month is intended to help promote awareness and cause us all to pause surrounding suicide prevention resources available in our community. Our Suicide Prevention Task Force has a broad representation of our community and agencies and the public. And this September, we released a public service announcement entitled Back to School to all 17 school districts concerning the pandemic. It was a collaboration between the intermediate unit, the United Way of Berks County, and our school districts. We also are working with the Reading Parking Authority concerning the placement of posters advertising our text line and our crisis line in all the Reading Parking Authority garages. And lastly, one of the other critical things we're working on is a mural that will be devoted to the whole suicide prevention topic and those survivors of suicide, and devoted to the memory. And this will be painted on the rear of our Mosaic House, which is visible to traffic on Cherry Street. Unable to join me today, but a close partner in this is our Veterans Affairs Office, led by Ken LeBron. In 2019, we had 65 of our fellow county residents that lost their lives to suicide. And so far through August, we have 35 of them. That is 35 way too many, and we need to continue to focus on that topic. And I appreciate the board helping us to bring this to the public's attention. Our Veterans Affairs Office is there for over more than 23,000 veterans who reside in Berks County. Very concerning to me and to Mr. LeBron and all public leaders is our veteran death rate. It's over 6,000 veteran suicides per year, or roughly 17 a day. So to put that into perspective, 17 of our veterans will have taken their lives by the time we all go to sleep tonight. Veterans are 1.5 times more likely to die by suicide than Americans who never served in the military. As I thank you once again for presenting this proclamation, I want to point out that our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, 365-day-a-year crisis intervention line is 610-236-0530. We have a crisis text line at 484-816-7865. And we also have our Are You OK website. You've seen many billboards and buses with advertisements and television ads, and that's www.ruokburks.com. I want to point out as I close my brief presentation here that our goal is to help people around us learn how to talk about suicide without increasing the risk of harm. And for those that open up those topics with their friends and their neighbors and their loved ones, I want to let them know that they are not alone in their support. It's okay to talk about what a person is feeling in suicide, and we will be there to support the people who are supporting their loved ones and friends and neighbors with the resources that are available to help them. I thank the board once again, and I implore the public to join with us in utilizing these numbers. And thank you for presenting the proclamation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ed, and I'm glad that you pointed out the involvement of our Berks County Department of Veterans Affairs. I wanted to note that the Pennsylvania Department of Military and Veterans Affairs is encouraging everyone to light a candle at 8 p.m. this evening in observance of World Suicide Prevention Day. And they note that about 47,000 people commit suicide each year in the U.S., but military veterans are 1.5 times more likely to die by suicide than Americans who never served in the military. They also note female veterans, the risk factor is 2.2 times more likely. And when you look at these statistics and factor that Pennsylvania serves nearly 800,000 veterans, that is the 4th largest veteran population in the United States. And it's pretty easy to see why the Pennsylvania Department of Military and Veterans Affairs is so concerned about this issue. So just want to encourage people to follow up on that.
Commissioner, one more thing. People can go to the Are You OK Berks Facebook page and light a candle in memory of their loved one and write a brief statement so that we don't forget the value of the lives we've lost. One last thing is people who die by suicide really don't want to end their life. They want to end their pain. And we must keep that in mind when we're trying to help them.
Dr. Ed, if you would send the link to the Are You OK website through the chat, and we'll have our IS team post that on Microsoft Teams Live and also on Facebook and YouTube Live. Any other comments from my colleagues?
I just think it's important to acknowledge that today is Suicide Prevention Day and Suicide Prevention Month, and we all need to step forward and do what we can to help our community, more so now than ever through COVID-19 and the pandemic that has brought not just a considerable marked increase in substance use disorder deaths, but also monitoring the isolation for people with substance use disorders as well as have suicide. So it's important for all of us to engage people, to talk to people, and let them know we all care and love them very much. So thank you.
Yep. Yeah, I just want to thank Dr. Mahalik and for what his team does, and Ken also for what he's doing for veterans there. I think when we look at suicide, it may have not touched all of our lives personally, but if you stop and think for a moment, I'm sure you know at least 3 to 5 people that have had some type of issue or some type of family member friend that has dealt with suicide. So in one way or another, it affects us all directly. So please help us get this information out there. Again, thank you, Dr. Mahalik and Ken, for the information for the work that you're doing to help share this information and make people more aware of this situation.
Thank you, Commissioner Rivera and Commissioner Barnhart. We'll move on to the next item. We have Brian Gottschall with us. He is our director of the Berks County Department of Emergency Services, and he is also the leader of our Berks County COVID-19 leadership team. Brian Gottschall.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you very much. And again, this is our third presentation of our weekly data review related to COVID. I'll just give a second to allow the IT department to get our slide deck up. We live there with the slide deck?
Yes, we are.
Great, I'm sorry. I really can't see that on my end. Okay, so as I said, our third presentation, this is our review of the state's early warning dashboard. This statistics, this data is published and current as of last Friday. As we've mentioned previously, the state only updates this on a weekly basis. And we see some pretty good news here. Most of our indicators are headed down. Those that are headed up, as you can see, the upward tick is very small, 0.10% positivity and 2 additional hospitalizations during the week. So one of the downsides that we get with this product is that we can't see the magnitude of the vectors, just the up or down. It would be nice if they could show us big long arrows where the things are going up a lot and little short arrows where the things are only going up a little. So again, I think overarchingly our early warning dashboard production for last Friday represents some good news for the community, but we do want to talk about one caution to that, and that'll come up in the last slide. As we mentioned last week, based on some concerns that we heard about our use of statistically smooth numbers, we do want to show our daily spot numbers here, and we see that both our testing as well as our daily case counts have up and down days, and we, again, as we said before, statistically smooth those on this slide so that it's a little bit easier to look at the data and to spot trends. We see that our testing numbers are still significantly above the state recommended minimums for our county. Our case count is unfortunately not below that number, but is remaining reasonably flat after a period of elevation following the end of the mitigation lockdown. A new slide that we want to show this week is what is called smoothed first test positivity. And I'm gonna jump us back a couple slides just to make a reference to help explain what this is about. On the state dashboard here in the middle, we see that our testing positivity rate is running at just under 5%. And the state, in evaluating that number and producing that positivity number, is including all testing that gets done, even what would be considered serial negative testing. So, for example, nursing homes and community test sites that are producing a large number of negative test results are being factored into that number. And in essence, what we're doing is we're taking the number of positives and we're dividing it by the number of tests. And then that gets us our testing positivity percentage. As with any math and division, if you make that bottom number, the denominator of the fraction, larger, it drives down the percentage. And when we're doing a lot of recurring testing, like we are at nursing homes right now, just at the Berks Heim, we're adding over 500 tests every week. The vast majority of those, at least at Berks Heim, being negatives. Because that makes that denominator bigger, it drives our percentage down, and that's okay. The state is factoring that into their evaluation of our positivity, and as we all know, they've set the 5% number as being our watch point threshold. But in evaluating that, we want to make sure that we're not overlooking another important number, and that's what this new last slide is about. This slide considers the positivity without taking into account recurring testing on the same person, those repetitive negatives. This is our first test positivity, and we can see that that number is well above 10% here in the last 2 days, again, in a smooth curve. We want to be attentive to that because this is representative of people that aren't being repetitively testing, but people that are producing for first-time testing. So this is somebody who's never been tested before and either had exposure to somebody who was COVID positive or felt unwell themselves and produced to get tested and ultimately came back with a positive test. We can see that number, and I apologize, it's a little faint, you might not see it, but in the middle of that line, we see what's called a trend line that shows the slope of the long-term curve, if you will, and we see that number has been progressing upward for quite some period of time and has in the last few days become significantly high, well into the double digits. We've seen single day positivities of 11 and 12% in the last 7-day smoothing period. So we want to be attentive to the state dashboard. We want to feel good about the fact that we as a community are making some good strides and we're keeping those numbers where we want them to be. But at the same time, we don't want to get fooled into believing that there's no cause for concern because our first test positivity is trending pretty high. Back to you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Brian. Any comments or questions from my colleagues? Very good. We will move into our agenda. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for September the 3rd Commissioner meeting and the September 8th operation meetings. Are there any additions or corrections? Hearing none, the minutes will stand approved as presented. And again, I will note now that those are approved, they will be posted later today on the website. Mary, is there any public comment on specific agenda items?
I don't believe there are any.
Okay, thank you. Under the agenda, item 1, authorizing, under that, Budget Department, adopt a resolution authorizing 2020 budget transfers in the amount of $1,657,000 start over. $1,657,019, 2020 appropriations in the amount of $49,953 per listing dated September the 7th of 2020. I just realized I failed to note we did hold 2 executive sessions since our last meeting. The first was on September the 3rd, dealing with personnel and union negotiations, and the second was on September the 8th, dealing with personnel. Human Resources, we have several items. Item 1, authorize the appointment of Suzanne Miller to Office Manager, Recorder of Deeds. Item 2, authorize the promotion of Suzette Melendez from Human Resources Generalist to Senior Human Resources Generalist in HR. And item 3, authorize the promotion of Betsy, I'm going to say it wrong, Carsadas from Senior Compensation Analyst to Compensation Manager in HR. We have one item listed under Commissioner Rivera, adopt a resolution authorizing the appointment of Michael B. Emery, Reading, PA, to the Berks County Parks and Rec Board to fill the unexpired term of Joseph Seltzer. This term will expire December 31st of 2020. We have several items listed under the Commissioners. Item A, adopt a resolution authorizing the chair to execute the participation agreement between HealthShare Exchange of Southeastern Pennsylvania and the County of Berks through the Berks County Area Agency on Aging to allow access and share patient medical record data securely and electronically to improve quality of care through real-time access to patient data. There's no cost for the first 3 years due to a state onboarding grant, and it was received by HSX. Item B, adopt a resolution authorizing the chair to electronically execute the 901 Municipal Waste Planning Grant with the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection to provide financial assistance for the Berks County Household Hazardous Waste Education Program for the 2020-2021 collection events. Item D, adopt a resolution authorizing Deborah Oliveri, Director of Election Services, to execute the contractual agreement between the County of Berks and the Crown Plaza of Reading for rental of space for a polling place for the November 3rd, 2020 election. I did see a question on that, and the reason it isn't currently listed is because it hasn't been approved. It will be listed after approval today. Item E, adopt a resolution authorizing the chief clerk to advertise enactment of proposed ordinance authorizing execution of an intergovernmental agreement between the County of Berks, the Berks County Office of District Attorney, and the Court of Common Pleas of Berks County Domestic Relations Section for the provision of legal services specified in the Title 4C Cooperative Agreement and the attached item B on behalf of domestic relations sections. Item F, adopt a resolution authorizing the chief clerk to advertise enactment of a proposed ordinance authorizing execution of 2 intergovernmental agreements between the County of Berks, the Berks County Sheriff's Office, and the Court of Common Pleas of Berks County Domestic Relations Section for the assignment of deputy sheriffs to provide continuous security coverage, maintain and execute bench warrants, and other assigned duties on behalf of the Domestic Relations Section. Item G, adopt a resolution authorizing Christine Sadler, Berks County Solicitor, to execute the waiver of conflict letter for Stevens and Lee to represent the Richard J. Caron Foundation in pending property tax exemption matters. Item 2, a motion authorizing execution of contract agreements and amendments as furnished by the contract coordinator as set forth on the attached listing dated September the 8th of 2020. There are a total of 11 contracts. There is one that is jointly with adult probation, juvenile probation, and the courts. There's one with CareerLink, 2 with Children and Youth Services, 1 with the Department of Emergency Services, 2 with Mental Health and Developmental Disabilities, 1 with our print shop, 2 with Human Resources, and 1 with the Berks County Jail. And then finally, a motion to ratify and confirm payments as set forth on the Controller's Office voucher listing. It's dated September the 8th of 2020, and the payment of electronic transfers and employee payroll.
Motion to approve the agenda is presented.
Second?
The motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. We'll turn now to our County Treasurer, Dennis Adams, for the Treasurer's Report.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have an opening balance of $215,623,595.94. We have a balance to clear of $4,614,508.96, leaving us with a balance of $211,009,086.98.
Thank you very much. We'll move now to our County Controller, Sandy Graffius, for the Controller's Report.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Okay, we have total cash disbursements of $3,808,071.35, and there was no payroll. So that's my report.
Thank you very much. We'll move now to our Chief Administrative Officer, Ron Seaman.
Thank you, Commissioner. There's nothing to bring forth at this point.
We'll turn now to Commissioners, and we'll start with Commissioner Kevin Barnhart.
Good morning, everyone, to my colleagues and everyone who's joined us. I want to commend WFMZ and Reading Eagle for their tremendous coverage on the contact tracing program yesterday. Was was very well publicized. And we want to again focus on the fact that we need people to be aware of contact tracing, and if contacted, to comply and help us to stop the spread of the coronavirus. So again, thank you to our local news media for an outstanding job. And I think Carolyn did a tremendous job along with Brian and her colleague yesterday in presenting all the information. CARES Act, I'd like to give weekly updates on the CARES Act. We have pulled together the internal team. We are going to be meeting for several hours tomorrow morning and several hours Friday. That's Pam Schupp, Ron Seaman, myself, and Jessica Blauser. And then we'll be calling in Justin Luce and also Kelly Laubach and Paul Bradshaw during portions of those. We want to focus a process. We want to start to involve stakeholders in the community to go through the applications. So now that we've launched the New Start and we've launched the food insecurity, we want to really get high stepping on the other programs and get them out the door and get applications in and have them fielded by people in those areas, subject matter experts, to determine the greatest need in this community. I expressed this to my colleagues, I think, the other day. We did circle back yesterday with Whit O'Brien, our grant coordinator. We're now on the same page. They are going to step up their game as well as supply an individual person from Whit O'Brien to be part of these 4 subcommittees, which are the not-for-profit social service committee, the education committee, the municipalities and authorities, and the healthcare, to shepherd these through. I think we need to get this money out the door sooner rather than later. Obviously, we have to comply with all sorts of rules and requirements, but we're going to start pulling in the community to really help us get this started. The bottom line is we're not making this political. We're making this about the community. So I think the process that Pam Schupp has laid out is really effective, and we're really going to be going through the details Thursday and Friday with this. So again, that's for the public consumption, but also for my colleagues to be aware of. With respect to elections, I have a few updates, some very important information. As of this morning, we had 54,354 applications for ballots. The ballots are not ready yet because there is a challenge to the Green Party, and that challenge still needs to be heard in the court. So the online sign-up program will be available once the ballots are available, and people will be able to make an appointment every 15 minutes to come into election services to request a ballot. If they want to actually come into election services, ask for a ballot from their respective precinct, fill it out, and hand it in. The other items, very important, there was some contact that Debbie and her staff have had from people who want to go out and basically, the term is harvest ballots, meaning picking them up for other people and bringing them in. Someone called and said, hey, is it okay if I drop off 50 ballots? That's against the law. You are only supposed to be delivering your own ballot to the election services or the drop box. Only you, by law, should be carrying your own ballot, not 50, all your neighbors and friends. That's called harvesting, and that's not appropriate. Very important, mail-in voters who provided an alternative address in the primary to have their ballot. For example, if I lived in Florida in the springtime or summertime, and now I'm back in Berks County, you will still receive that application if you check the box and said, yes, I want my application to go to my location in Florida. You need to get that corrected if you're back home. You need to notify election services with a written letter and a signature so that they make sure that you get your ballot in Berks County. They're trying to avoid you having to reapply. That's why they're asking for a letter with a signature saying Kevin Barnhart would like his ballot mailed to 8 Eagles Lane as opposed to Delray Beach, Florida. Here's my signature. We're trying to avoid that process. Again, that's 633 Court Street, first floor, election services. Please don't get shut out. If you want to vote, make sure that if you have received your primary ballot at some other location outside of Berks County, you need to make that correction. I think that's critically important today for people to be aware of that. And again, Commissioner Leinbach pointed out that we have approved using the Crown Plaza in replacement of the Highlands. So all the other Wyomissing locations will remain as they normally are, with the exception of the Highlands. Those voters will be going to the Crown Plaza. Those voters will be receiving a letter from Election Services just to remind them of that. So I think, oh, wait a minute, I buried my notes. Okay, census, the deadline, the tentative deadline is the end of this month. So you have about 20 days to complete your census. Census 2020 or My Census Online. Please fill this out. We've said this for 2.5 years now, how critically important it is for you to fill out your census form. And it's completely confidential, and no one can use that information for any other purposes but the Census Bureau. But it's so important for us to receive that money that should be coming back from Washington to Pennsylvania to improve our lives here. And last but not least, we did recognize today and this through month is Suicide Prevention Month, but also let's not forget tomorrow is September 11th, the anniversary of the terrorist attacks on our country in 2001. And I remember that day quite vividly, and soon after that, like it was yesterday, there was a time in my life where our country came together for a sole purpose and really were neighbors and friends and really took care of each other. And hopefully we're going to see that in the not too distant future, that this country can again come together as a great place to live and work and work together instead of tearing each other apart. So just a little thing there. I hate to get a little political there, but because of that, I just think back in those days how we really just pulled together and made things so much better for this community. I know we can do it. I know we should do it. Just going to have to be a little patient till we see things get the way they should be in our community, and we all get together and do the right thing for each other, for our family, for our friends, for our neighbors. And you know, talking about COVID-19, pulling together, we're doing the right thing here in Berks County, best we can, with all the efforts we're making here and our community's making to stop this spread. So thank you very much, and I'll turn the mic over to my colleague.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Barnhart, and we'll turn over to Commissioner Michael Rivera.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Leinbach. A few things I want to bring up today. Just to let people know, the Small Business New Start Grant Program started this morning at 9 a.m. And you can go to communityfirstfund.org to apply, or to rebuildberks.com/funding. Again, communityfirstfund.org or rebuildberks.com/funding. It's a $6 million grant program designed for small businesses with $3 million or less in gross revenues and 50 in full-time employee equivalents or less, businesses that are based in Berks County. The program is being administered by Community First Fund, and although the application process started today, it's a 10 business day period you have to apply. It is not first come, first serve, so just go on today, make sure you have all the information that you need so you can have it when you apply. If you don't complete the application properly, or you're missing information, you will not be considered for one of the grants. So please make sure you go in and you complete everything. There is a call center that you can call, Community First Fund, and there will be people there that will be able to answer any questions for you in reference to the grant. So please, let's help get this information out to our small businesses. I know many of them need help. Some of them may not be aware of this program. So if you are familiar with someone who owns a business, please reach out to them today and ask them to go and apply. Something else that's very important as well is our restaurants. As you know, they've only been able to open at 25% capacity, and that has affected many restaurants. Some restaurants have had the capacity to be able to set up tables outside, some more than others, but working at 25% capacity inside only. We've heard from many restaurant owners that it's not even worth their time to be able to do that because it costs them more to run the restaurant than what they would generate having only 25% capacity. So starting on September 21st, restaurants will be able to open at 50% capacity inside. They will have to do a self-certification process, which will give them a certification saying that they are opening in a safe manner, that they're aware of all the rules and regulations to be able to open safely, to keep our people safe. Because the reality is not many people, or not everyone, is still comfortable going out and eating at restaurants. So we need to make sure that our restaurants are doing everything they can so that people will feel safe to go out and eat at those restaurants. This is great, you know, at 50% capacity, it's more revenue for the restaurant. Hopefully we'll see more restaurants opening if they're still closed, and other restaurants that are open. Hopefully this will help also with their revenue as well. So please let's share this information. This is something that the commissioners, led primarily by Commissioner Leinbach and CCAP, have been on top of the governor's office saying restaurants can remain open at 25% capacity. You have to do something about it. We need to increase that capacity. And they've been on the governor week after week on that. So thank you, Commissioner Leinbach, for heading that together with CCAP. This is something that our restaurants definitely need to be able to be more viable. Also, let's keep in mind as we start this weekend, tomorrow is September 11th. Many people that we know here had family, friends, our loved ones that were in the New York area that may have died on September 11th. So please, let's remember them. And to those that did have family members, friends, our loved ones there, our thoughts are with you this weekend. And one other thing I want to touch on is we have the elections that are coming up. Just following social media and posts that people put on there. Let's remember, we all have different ways of seeing things. We all have different thoughts on different issues. We were all brought up differently and see the world differently. And because I see the world differently doesn't mean that I'm right and you're wrong, or that you're wrong or that you're right and I'm wrong. It just means that we see things differently. So let us share differences, let us share our points of view, but let us do it respectfully. I just see so many negative, disrespectful posts on social media, comments that I hear, and it's really going back to what Commissioner Barnhart said about coming together as a nation, looking for the best for our nation. It's really not the best way to move forward. Let's understand that we're going to agree to disagree, but we can do that in a way that's respectful. And again, each one working for the candidate that we feel is the best candidate for our nation now on November. But let's do it in a way that's respectful to everyone, understanding that the people running are people as well, and that they're doing their best, and that they're running because they want to do their best for their nation, for their state, for their municipality as well. So let's just be respectful of the people that are running, and let us share our points of view, let us share our differences, but in a respectful way. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rivera and Commissioner Barnhart. A couple items. I also want to touch on the restaurant and bar decision by the governor. All three of us as commissioners have been calling on the administration, really two things on restaurants and bars. One, we asked for the data. Where was the data that justified that the problem was in the restaurants and bars? Commissioner Rivera noted, I do sit on the County Commissioners Association, Governors and Department of Health Task Force. There's probably about 12 or 13 of us from across the state. And every Monday and every Friday, we have a call with the Pennsylvania Department of Health and the governor's office. And every other week, we have a call with the governor. And ever since the restaurants were rolled back from 50% inside capacity to 25%, we've been saying to the governor and to DOH, where's the data? Show us the data that justifies the decision. And I think you've seen some of that in the media. The bottom line is there wasn't any data. It was more of a gut decision on the part of the administration. And to their credit, they listened. And I want to give you an example. A week ago Monday, at the last minute, our Department of Health governor's call was canceled. And not most of us were not very happy on the CCAP task force. And one of our commissioners put a note out to the governor's office, not the governor, but Rob from the governor's office, and said, you know, we're really disappointed canceling at the last minute. I responded and said, I agree completely. Rob from the governor's office, to his credit, I'm going to say 15, 20 minutes after I sent my email, called me. And I thought, oh man, I'm going to get reamed out because I went after the governor. And Rob didn't do that at all. Rob talked to me about what's going on in our county, and he said, what is the biggest issue that you're consistently hearing? And I said, Rob, it is restaurants and bars. It makes no sense. We've looked at our contact tracing. We know where the bulk of our cases are coming from. They're 18 to 24-year-olds. They tend to be high school and colleges. That continues. And our restaurants and bars are doing exactly what you've asked them to do. I believe like a week prior to that, DOH had been down to do an inspection of restaurants, and we passed with flying colors. They're doing everything they're supposed to. And he said to me, he said, Commissioner, look, we are hearing from the Restaurant Association. We've heard every week from CCAP. We are going to look at this again. And this past Tuesday morning, Rob called me again and said, Christian, I just want to give you a heads up. In about a half hour, the governor's going to announce that he's decided to move back to the 50%. Now, I will tell you, a lot of people would love to be at 100%, but I will tell you, the restaurants that have talked to me, the owners, have said, just let us get back to 50%. Many of them can't make money at 25% capacity where they have little or no outside seating. So I know some people feel at times the commissioners aren't doing enough or they aren't doing anything. I've heard that often. I will tell you, I and my colleagues are not interested in standing up on a soapbox and talking about every little thing we're doing, but we are doing everything we can behind the scenes to advocate for the health and safety of our citizens, to advocate on behalf of the businesses and the people that we represent. And we do it outside of any political statement. We do it based on what we believe is right. And this is one of the examples, and it's paid dividends. And don't misquote me. I am not taking credit. I am part of a number of people throughout the Commonwealth, and we as commissioners are part of the County Commissioners Association who have taken a very strong position on this. We succeed when we work together towards a common objective, and this is an example of being able to move our restaurants in the right direction. The second thing I just want to touch on as well is tomorrow is September 11th. Commissioner Barnhart is absolutely correct. It didn't last for a couple days. It lasted for weeks, maybe even months, where there was a fervor in this country that we said, you know what, it doesn't matter what party we're in. It doesn't matter what our background is, rich, poor. It just didn't matter. We were all Americans, and we stood with New York City. We stood with the people on those planes and the families that were impacted by the planes that crashed in New York City and in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and the Pentagon. And I'll just mention this. Last year in November, the latter part of November, my wife and I took a short vacation out to Western Pennsylvania. I had been to the New York 9/11 Memorial a year or so before, but I'd never been to Shanksville, neither had my wife, and we went out to Shanksville. I would strongly recommend if you have an opportunity to go there. And it would be great to be there on 9/11, but for me, the benefit was being there on a weekday on a November day where there weren't many people there, and I was out in the middle of nowhere. And it gave you a sense of what that day was like. It was a normal day. And that ground, that area will never be the same because there were people willing to stand up for what they believed in and to defend our country. And I'm talking about the people in the plane. I don't know if I shared this before, but the display inside the museum at Shanksville is absolutely amazing. I was under the impression that it was primarily speculation, that the let's roll and the whole idea that the passengers took over the plane was speculation and maybe a feel-good Hollywood story. It's not. It's the reality. You're able to listen to the cockpit recordings. You're able to listen to recorded voicemails that people made on their cell phones back home. You're able to see what happened to the plane as it matches up with the cockpit recorder. You can hear people breaking in into the cockpit, and you can hear the people in the plane. I don't know who all of them were, that said basically we've got to do something, and began to the fight that ultimately took the plane down. And all the experts believe the plane was heading to Washington, D.C. September 11th is worth remembering because it was a tragic day in American history, but it's also worth remembering how people came together and how desperately we need people to come together today. Not to throw rhetoric around, and I'm talking about anyone. Let's start to learn to stand up passionately for what we believe in, but not make it personal. Let's be strong in what we believe in, but let's also be humble in the way we believe that. I wish to Commissioner Barnhart and Commissioner Rivera that we could see that happen again in our country, and maybe we will. I don't know, maybe we will, but I can tell you this, it starts with us, not us as politicians, us as individuals. If we wait for someone else to make the move, for someone else to be kind, for someone else not to snap back, we'll be waiting a long time. With that, we will move to comments from any of our row officers. Any comments from row officers? Hearing none, we will move to public comment. And Mary, if you could take us through the public comment at this time.
Certainly. I'm going to read the first comment from Melvia Ahmed from Wyomissing. It's been addressed, but I would like to read the entirety of her comment. Sure. Frequently, I visit the County of Berk's website to review the past minutes and to read the agenda for the upcoming meeting. I have noticed that the last meeting minutes were for the meeting 2 weeks ago. I checked the agenda for today yesterday and it was not available. Do you have a schedule for posting public information for the public to be able to comment on currently discussed topics of interest? It would be useful to have access to that information at least the day before the meeting. Also, last week I asked what other methods besides staffing are you considering to prepare for the flood of absentee ballots expected? Linda Brancadora, Bern Township. Some have mentioned drop-off boxes. Folks, that just brings another risk into play and makes the process even more cumbersome. The less locations for ballots, the more secure the integrity of our election will be. Mail-in ballots can be requested up to 50 days before the election. This is more than enough time to receive an application and receive a ballot and put it in the mail. For the few that for some reason this is not enough time, can drop it off at the secured drop-off location inside the courthouse. No need for others scattered throughout. On election day, as a last resort, you're also able to vote in person even after receiving a mail-in ballot. Some may say they don't want to go to the polls because of COVID-19. Folks, the few minutes that you are at the polls with a mask and social distance is less of a risk than going to the supermarket for half an hour, or the doctor or dentist, or out to eat, or big box store, or anywhere in public. It also will prevent a strain on counting the votes and ensuring that the votes are tabulated on time. Commissioners, please, no other drop-off box locations. Please make every effort to vote in person. We all want to ensure that all votes are received and counted. Liz Cates, Bern Township. The Berks Family Detention Center continues to be a stain on our county, the Commonwealth, and the nation. It is a devil's bargain moneymaker for the county coffers. Shut it down. Crystal Kowalski, Wyomissing. Good morning, Commissioners. Given the escalation of violence and the ever-diverging perception of its causes, I am once again asking for a town hall on police use of force and equitable enforcement of the law. In reality, for this to be useful, it should grow into a series of discussions. The communities and individuals impacted by unequal use of force and harsher enforcement of the law need to be heard. Berks County has a wealth of organizations working tirelessly on these issues. Because of this, we are fortunate to have available parties that can share their experiences. I am happy to help coordinate if that would facilitate the process. We have been talking for years about the need for input from the communities that have been affected. This really does need to happen immediately. Thank you. Adrian Jadick, Wyomissing. Dear Commissioners, last week I asked you about the polling place at the Highlands. Commissioner Barnhart informed us that the polling place has been moved to the Crown Plaza. Apparently, there are more Wyomissing polling places that have been moved to the Crown Plaza. I'm addressing you again today with great concern. Both the Berks Election Services website and the Pennsylvania Department of State website still list the Highlands as a polling place for Wyomissing 3, and the Wyomissing Library as polling place for Wyomissing 1. Commissioner Barnhart, you assure us that all is taken care of and all is okay, but evidence indicates otherwise. I am a precinct coordinator for Wyomissing 3, and after conversations with various voters in Wyomissing, I found out they had no idea about this change. How could they have when our Department of State still lists the traditional polling places? Moreover, after persistent campaign of disinformation by President Trump, most voters are avoiding to use mail ballots. As of today, only about a third of Wyomissing residents have applied for a mail ballot, which leaves over 5,000 voters to vote in person. What will you do to ensure that such large numbers can vote, and what are you doing to officially inform the voters of the polling place changes? Additionally, what measures are taken to debunk President Trump's disinformation campaign and encourage voters to use the mail ballot, which is a safer way to vote for everyone? Christopher Ellis, Reading. With local colleges allowing students from all over to come to campus, we are seeing community spread in Kutztown, and it is only a matter of time until this happens in Reading. I don't blame the students. We all know when we were younger that we may have felt more invincible. We also know that the more gatherings you allow, the more likely it is to spread COVID-19. I blame the Kutztown administration for okaying this in the first place. Anyone with any sense knew this was going to happen. It is paramount that contact tracing focus on this. Multiple employees at Kutztown have positive COVID cases, and the borough is trying its best. Will you condemn Kutztown University's horrible decision to allow students back onto campus instead of going virtual? And please reach out to them, if you haven't already, to implore them to go virtual to prevent future spread. Community spread is happening, and until we act, it will simply further explode. Permanent heart and breathing issues and even deaths may result from this horrible decision. I ask that you use your power of the bully pulpit to point out that Kutztown University erred and that they should close down face-to-face instruction and also not send students back to their communities to further spread it. Thank you again. Becky Ellis, Reading. Good morning. Articles regarding Kircher Creek and Northern Berks were printed in the Reading Eagle twice in the past 2 weeks, one regarding care for the park and the other pertaining to a valve malfunction which drained 4 feet from Kircher Creek Lake. Commissioner Leinbach, I want to recognize that you have responded to my emails both in 2015 and 2019 when I questioned the status of Kircher Creek Park and with regards to the lead cleanup and the reason that Berks Park and Recreation is no longer leasing the park from the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission. Would it be possible for the county commissioners to hold a town hall for the community members affected by the non-renewal of the lease for Kircher Creek Park, including a representative from DEP and the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission? The frustrations of the community are palpable as it appears that blame is cast from one party to the next. And what is needed is a public forum in which questions can be asked and answers can be given by the county commissioners, DEP, and the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission, so that the public knows exactly where each party stands and why. The Friends of Kircher Creek Facebook page, which has 563 followers, states as much in its about information when it says Berks County blames the PA Fish and Boat Commission. The PA Fish and Boat Commission, excuse me, blames Berks County. This is the result. Thank you. And that is the last of the comments.
If I may.
Thank you very much, Mary. At this time, we will close the comments, and we're going to allow commissioners if they want to make any comments. But Christine Sadler, our solicitor, is going to address the Kircher Creek issue. Christine?
Good morning, commissioners and people attending via public forum online. I just wanted to give some background information regarding Kircher Creek. I've been personally involved in that situation going back to when I first started in the commissioner's office back in 2003 is my earliest contact regarding the situation. The county really did spend a lot of time and effort trying to work out a agreeable solution regarding continuing our long-standing relationship at Kircher Creek. The long and short of it is the reason why the county wasn't able to continue that lease agreement was because of a lack of indemnification being present in the lease agreement. The county worked in partnership with Fish and Boat. We went out and hired consultants that the county paid for to look at the lead contamination and the cleanup project. I attended personally many meetings out there with the field consultants, with people from Fish and Boat, people from the county parks department. We were willing to partner with them all along, and we assisted them actually in the cleanup in terms of figuring out a plan that was going to provide a safe environment long-term for the public to continue to utilize that park. But the concern in light of the current conditions that exist at the park is that the situation that we faced several years ago, there was potential, not necessarily in the area that we spent a lot of time and energy trying to clean up, but that same situation could arise in other areas of the park because of the history of that area being used as a, for lack of a better word, dumping area for the local battery plants to dump battery casings and the like, that over the years have risen to the top due to erosion, as well as ordinary, methods of time causing that to occur. Fish and Boat, we asked them multiple times, and we even followed a couple of years ago to say, listen, we're willing to partner with you, but going forward, if there's future situations, we need to Fish and Boat as the owner of the property to take responsibility for those future cleanup efforts. That is something that Fish and Boat was unwilling to agree to, and said that they couldn't agree to that arrangement. We work closely with Senator Argyle was involved, Representative Knowles was involved. I know I had conversations with both their offices. So I think the information has been out there for a period of time. It's not the county's unwillingness to try to continue that relationships. It just boils down to the potential magnitude and exposure for the county going forward is too great of a risk for us to assume without that indemnification language in a future lease.
Yeah, and let's add that indemnification was only about pre-existing environmental issues. We were not asking them to indemnify us against something that maybe the county would cause in the future. It was pre-existing, and they wouldn't do that. You ask, why is that important? Our risk on the most recent cleanup was up to $200,000. And I don't want to get into the complexity of that, but because Fish and Boat never provided the proper verification on the cleanup, the county ultimately didn't pay for that cleanup. We did pay for consultants that we were not reimbursed for, but we never paid for that because Fish and Boat didn't follow their own agreement with the county that said, we will pay up to $200,000, but you need to provide verifications that the cleanup was done according to DEP regulations. And that didn't happen. And we have been very clear. We've been very transparent. I've spoken to numerous people in the Hamburg area. I live in that area. I used to go to Kircher Creek Park. Our church had our picnics there. It's a great little park, and we wanted very much to move forward. So much so that we went from an agreement in the past where we pretty much maintained the park. We put up the buildings that were there, the park equipment, all of that. Restrooms was all built by the county. We were willing to go forward, continue to own and maintain those buildings, and pay $20,000 a year lease, which in the past we paid nothing. And we still could not get an agreement. And we came with the $20,000 out of the gate because we thought it was the right thing to do. And it was the indemnification in the end that cost us. And we went back multiple times until they gave us a letter that said, no, absolutely no, it's not going to happen.
And part of the discussion, Commissioner Leinbach, was that $20,000 Fish and Boat was going to put aside as a sinking fund for the potential future remediation. I think it's unfortunate, but I think this started back in the 1970s, the first 40-year agreement. To Commissioner Leinbach's point, the county owned and maintained the upright facilities, but Fish and Boat historically is about fishing and boating, and having a park there was kind of unusual. Wasn't really what they did throughout the Commonwealth. We went through this for years, I think the last 10 years, Christine, back and forth with Fish and Boat, trying to get an arrangement because we think it's a beautiful park. But when you can't indemnify us and hold us harmless for a multi-million-dollar cleanup, that would be the responsibility of our local taxpayers for the third cleanup. So the first cleanup was some buckets of dirt were dropped on the.
1999.
It was a partial remediation. I wouldn't even call it a cleanup because what they did is threw dirt on top of battery casings, which were crushed. So it's the dust that's on the casings that's the concern, the lead dust from the casings. So this most recent cleanup, I'm not a remediation expert, but it's directly behind a daycare center where kids would go from the daycare center down to the lake for breaks and for picnics and things. I think if you go up there today, it's not going to be too much longer before those battery casings start to lift up from that ground again. I think they did a terrible job. And we were even in dispute with Fish and Boat whether they were going to pay anything because their cleanup project is just half baked. Tree roots and erosion and things like that over a period of time, you start to see the battery cases again. Unless they would physically remove those battery casings, you're never really going to eliminate that problem. And to Christine's comment, there could be other battery dropping areas all around that park that we have no idea about, and sooner or later it may start to lift to the surface. But we believe that one was right off the road, and where I think it was Bowers Battery in Hamburg back in the 40s and 50s, I believe they were Bowers batteries. Probably was the easiest way to do is just back the truck in off the side of the road and dump it and take off until they found out the lead was a carcinogenic. So again, I hated to see us part ways, but we fought like the Dickens to try to keep it within our park system, and it just wasn't going to happen.
Yep. Thank you very much, Christine and Commissioner Barnhart. Any other comments?
Just going back to the comments about the Green Party, according to what I've been told, they cleared the statewide candidates of the Green Party, but they haven't certified the Green Party candidate for president. So that's still a little bit of a piece that has to be done before the actual certification of the ballots. Just wanted to clear that up. And I hope everyone understands the Wyomissing situation. It's the Highlands going to Crown Plaza. Those voters will receive letters notifying them they're going to be going from the Highlands to the Crown Plaza, but the other precincts in Wyomissing remain as is. Thank you.
And that couldn't happen until we took the action that we took today.
Correct.
Very similar to the approval of the minutes. They're not official until they're approved. This wasn't official until the action was approved, which is now taking place.
People want us to be transparent and open, so we do things in public.
Yep. Other comments? Okay.
No.
Anything else for the good of the order?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.